Welcome everyone to Animae Caribe Animation and Digital Media Festival. We are so excited to launch with our partners bmobile our 2021 Stopmo-Mobile Competition. I'm Anushka and today I will be your host for this session. Our guest is the lovely Brad Schiff of LAIKA Studios. Yay! Brad is not new to Animae Caribe and he will know well. He has a huge fan base in the Caribbean, and I cannot wait to tell my friends that I have the opportunity to interview him. So, hi, Brett. Welcome. So great to see you again.
Hi,
Wish
Anushka.
you
Great
were
to
here
see you.
with us. Wish you were here with us, of course. Thank you for agreeing to give our audience some tips and tricks for the Anime Carib B Mobile Stopmo Mobile Competition Challenge. But before we go there, how are you and how are things at Leica Studios?
I'm doing great, thank you. It's great to be here. I love Animae Caribe, and it's always a pleasure to be included and be part of it.
Good, good.
And we're doing great here at Leica. We've just started production on our sixth feature film. I can't say anything about it at this time because we haven't announced anything. But our first two animators have been launched on the first two shots of the film. So we're going. So in a couple of years, there'll be another movie.
Wow. Excited. I cannot wait because I know the quality of the work that you guys do. Can you give us an idea of how you got into stop motion and eventually become the lead at Leica Studios?
Sure. As a kid, I think when I was in high school, I used to make little stop motion films. I didn't even know that it was called stop motion, but I used to make little films with my little GI Joe action figures with a buddy of mine, and but I never really thought about doing that for a living or anything. But in college, I discovered I had the ability to sculpt, and I started taking these animation classes, and I went from being a C student who didn't know what he wanted to do all of a sudden to being an A student. I went from like a 2.7 grade point average to a 4.0 grade point average. And it's as if somebody sort of grabbed me by the shoulders, pointed me in a direction and said, keep doing this and walk this way. And I just started animating. I fell in love. And I went to graduate school. I went to film school to do it. And when I graduated, I moved to San Francisco, which was sort of the stop motion hub of the world at that particular time. James and the Giant Peach was in production. I'll kind of give you an idea of the timeline. But then everything went silent. So and everybody said that the medium of stop motion was dead. So here I am. I just got my master's degree in stop motion animation, and Jurassic Park, which was supposed to be stop motion, went CG. Mars Attacks, that I was told I was hired on right out of school, the phones went silent because they went up going CG. And then there wasn't anything for a long period of time, for about 3 or 4 years. And then in Portland, Will Vinton Studio, actually, let me rewind a little bit. In 1998, I got my first everyday gig on a show called Celebrity Deathmatch on MTV. And it's a stop motion show of different celebrities beating the crud out of each other. And that sort of led to, Will Vinton Studios was a place that I always wanted to work. And every year I was always sending them my demo reel. And every time I would get a rejection letter back. And my seventh rejection letter from them was post-dated my start date at MTV. And after doing it every day for 6 months, I was working with somebody who was going over there to work on a show called The PJs. And he gave me the name of somebody. I sent my stuff in again that I'd been working on on this television show for the last 6 months. And I got a call back 3 days later, and they asked me when I could start. And so that was how I got to Portland. And I animated on some television shows and the PJs and Gary and Mike. And then those went away, and I started directing commercials. I didn't love directing commercials at that time. I loved the longer format of television, and I really wanted to work on feature films. Was really my goal from the time that I was in film school. And um, all of a sudden an opportunity came about in London to work on Tim Burton's Corpse Bride. And I was able to step away from directing commercials without ever having to say that I don't want to direct commercials. And I just sidestepped to animating. So I animated on Tim Burton's Corpse Bride in London. And then when I came back, the company I worked for, Will Vinton Studios, had changed the brand and become LAIKA. And so I came back and animated on the film Coraline, and went back to London when Coraline was over to animate on Fantastic Mr. Fox. And then when I came back from Fantastic Mr. Fox, Travis Knight pulled me aside and asked me if I would be animation supervisor on Paranorman. And I stepped into the role on Paranorman, and I've been animation supervisor on every film since: Paranorman, Box Trolls, Kubo and the Two Strings, Missing Link, and what I can only call Film 6.
So it's so relatable. Like you have a master's in stop motion.
Yeah, it's fun. It's interesting, this medium that everybody said was dead back in 1995 is more alive and bigger than ever.
Sorry, a connectivity issue, I think. But yes, what I was trying to say is you have a master's in stop motion and still you were rejected a few times, many times before you even, and you didn't get your dream job promptly. You first had to do the commercials, the things you didn't like. And I like how relatable this will be for most of our creators because, we are struggling a lot with getting ahead and getting our dream job. Yes, but for the audience, and lots of them are now new to stop motion, what would be some important tips for doing stop motion for the first time?
I think, yeah, sure. I mean, stop motion is, the act of taking a physical object and moving it incrementally and taking a picture and moving it again and taking a picture and moving it again and taking a picture. And that physical object could be anything. It could be a toy. It could be a piece of clay that you mold around. It could be your hands, if you want to move your hands one frame at a time and give the illusion that your fingers are walking. So you can do stop motion with anything. But my biggest tip is that people always have a tendency to overcomplicate things, and keep it simple, particularly for something like this. Come up with a simple idea with, a character or and one object, and do something simple and do it really well, as opposed to coming up with some big, huge, elaborate idea that you don't really have time to finish, and it becomes kind of half-baked.
I was there in the class when you were teaching us to make the doubles man, and for the people, the audience, everyone who's listening, if you want to see how that process went, you can go to the animecaribe.com website and see. We had a lot of fun. There was also some stress, and we were busy 2 days. Brad, was it 2 days?
Yes, two very intense days.
Intense days, and we made only 10 seconds, but we created each thing up around that, right?
It is 10 seconds is a lot.
It is
for that amount of time. Can also, especially with how many people that we had animating, so what we do here at LAIKA, each animator is responsible for 3.5 seconds of animation a day.
Wow. Yeah. What kind of tools and materials would you recommend for our people, for the people who are going to send in? Like, what tools can they use and what materials? Like you mentioned clay, but in terms of software, etc.
Yeah, software. You can get there's a stop motion app that you can get on your iPhone or your Android phone. It's a downloadable app. I think they have a free version, and they also have a paid version, which I think costs $3 or $4 or something like that, and it gives you more features. But you need some sort of frame grabber where you can see through you could use your phone. You use your phone as the camera, and on the screen you can see what you're looking at, And you can also, so as you take your frame, so say you like how you move the puppet or your object, and you hit shoot, it captures that. So then you can see that previous frame and your live frame as you hit play. So as you get to frame 10, you can see your previous 9 frames and your live frame. So you can see what you're doing as you move forward. And that's really the only piece of software that you need.
Okay, so nothing fancy and too expensive,
I mean,
etc.
it's kind of
That's
the
good.
beauty. It's kind of the beauty of stop motion that I always loved about it is that it's kind of like using whatever you can find under the kitchen sink to work. You don't really need a whole lot. You'll want some lights to make it look pretty, but you don't even need, you don't even need that for a challenge like this. You can get as elaborate with the lighting or as basic with the lighting as you want. You can use sunlight. You can embrace the fact that the sun's moving across the sky and the shadows are moving. That could be part of your piece. And as far as other tools, you need your hands. You need your hands. If you're sculpting with clay, maybe you want to use a tool of some sort of sculpting tool, or a spoon from the kitchen, or a popsicle stick, or toothpick. Nothing has to be elaborate.
Okay, and the basics for a good workflow, because they have limited time. Our deadline is the 1st of October.
Mm-hmm.
They have limited time. Can you give some basics for the workflow?
I think oftentimes when you start on a shot, you want to, when you figure out what you want to do it all in one take. Don't leave it overnight. So say, oh, I'll shoot some of this today and then I'll come back tomorrow and I'll shoot some more, because your lighting will change, things will move overnight. Somebody might kick at the table you're working on and everything moves. So whatever it is whatever shot you're gonna embark on, make sure that you do it in one go, and then for your next shot, do it the next day. But don't do half one night and half the next day, because your lighting won't match, your camera is going to move, and there'll be a jump in your image.
So when you're animating and you have set up everything, etc., how is it to work in groups? Would you recommend it? And if people work in groups, how would that work?
I don't. How long do people have to work on this challenge?
It's 30 to 40 seconds.
Okay, you can work in groups. I think working in groups is great if you can divvy up. If you can divvy up what each person has to do, so responsibilities. So if you have somebody that wants to, say you're building a puppet, whether it's out of paper or out of wire or whatever, or out of clay, somebody's going to build the puppet. Somebody else will build your set. Someone else will light it, and then someone else will animate it. But I don't recommend multiple people animating a project at the same time, because you're working in a small confined space and a lot of people will just get in the way. Like, you'll remember when we animated the doubles man, that how tight it was, and you were able to go in and animate a few frames, and then you had to get completely out of the way while the next person came in to work, and then they got out of the way while the next person came in to work. So it's very much, once you get to shooting the animation, it's a very solitary art form. But as far as constructing all the pieces and all the little bits that you may want to put in your film, I think working with a team can work really, really well.
I think that's partly good news for some of us who don't like to work with a lot of people all the time. So this sounds like something I would get into.
I know it's very much an introvert's art form. But but if you work at a team, you work with a team. Say, one person has some exceptional skills working with paper, and so you let them do that part, and somebody else happens to be really great at lighting. If you wanted to have some elaborate lighting, and that person does that, and somebody else really aspires to be a great animator, and that person can do the animation. So you have a team of three, each person has their own responsibilities, but together all of their skills come together, come together to form a greater project.
Yeah, yeah. Now, nice. I think that is a good. Last question. Any final tips for everyone here who is interested in animation in general?
I think one of the things you have to remember about stop motion is, and it's anything, you can have all of this stuff planned out, you know what you want to do, but things don't always go the way you plan them, and just be open to being spontaneous. So if you're moving something and really want to do a motion where a character, moves a particular way, or a piece of clay moves a particular way, and it doesn't, just go with the way that the object wants to move. So be willing to be spontaneous, be willing to change that idea at a moment's notice. And to me, that was always one of my favorite things about the art form, was the spontaneity. I would plan things out, and you get into it, and because you're dealing with a 24th of a second, you're toggling between frames, so you're going back and looking at your previous frame and your live frame, and as you do it, you can start to see motion. And sometimes as you start to see motion, you'll see something move in a way that you hadn't thought of, which is better than what you had planned. You're like, oh, I'm gonna do that instead. And to me, that was always one of the really cool things about the art form, and I think just adds to the inherent tactility of stop motion animation and the inherent charm that brings with it.
If I may put it all together, so it's keep it simple, prepare before we start, and if you work in group, split up the work in necessary, but not everyone animating together, and also be willing to be spontaneous and change, flip. I call it dilemma flipping. In business, we say that if one idea doesn't work, you have to flip the dilemma. We also have rapid prototyping. So yes, do all of that and just have fun during the process.
Totally, and it should be fun. It's an incredible art form. It, like anything, it can be frustrating at times, but the more open you are to just going with the flow, particularly on something like this, the more fun it's going to be.
Great, great. Those are very wise words, and I think helpful for everyone who is thinking of submitting a stop motion video for the Animae Caribe bmobile Stopmo-Mobile Competition. Thank you so much, Brad. We were hoping to celebrate you at AC 20th anniversary, but COVID has everything in store. And as you know, we love you here in Trinidad. What parting words would you like to leave to the festival team and the audience as we celebrate our 20th anniversary?
Well, I would love to come down there. The world is so crazy right now. It's as crazy here as it is down there, I'm sure. As people are trying to get, as they're trying to get vaccinations right, and COVID's just running rampant everywhere. But if I can't, I hope to be a part of it virtually somehow. But when I first came down 5 years ago,
we hope you can make it.
Thank you. But when I first came down 5 years ago, just the enthusiasm and the excitement for animation was off the charts. I was really blown away at how into animation everybody was there, and how big it is there. And I think with each subsequent visit, I think I've been down 3 times now. That enthusiasm is greater than the previous time, and it's, Trinidad really has it going on as far as animation goes, and it's really inspiring for me to see.
Yeah, and for the rest of the Caribbean, because myself, I'm from Suriname, and yes, Trinidad is actually bringing everyone. I don't like to say uplifting everyone, but like they're like attraction, and all the other countries around Trinidad, like Suriname, Guyana, Barbados, we are all getting so much value from the Animae Caribe Festival. And that's how we met you. And I know that we have learned a lot from all of the speakers as much as from you. So yes. Fantastic. So, on behalf of the Animae Caribe team, we would like to extend our appreciation for your investment in the sector and your belief in us. Thank you, and looking forward to some amazing stop motion experiments which we will share with you. For more information about Animae Caribe Festival taking place from the 28th till the 31st of October, please visit our website at animecaribe.com for more information. We have so much in store for our huge 20th celebration. Remember, everyone, to stay safe during this pandemic. Thank you, Brett, once more for being here with us, and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Anushka.